Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 186 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
Karak, here we go. It's January, and we got some news. We got so much going on. It is not slowed down.
It's insane.
We literally had Christmas off. That was it. We came back. Boom. Tons of crazy news happening. But before we get into that, if you want to support the show, you can go ahead and flick a buck. If you do so...
Flick a buck?
Yes, indeed. And if you do so... you can get early access to the H.A.M Radio Podcast, Patreon-exclusive videos, Discord access, and the list goes on. So if you want to support the show, keep the lights on, and all that stuff, then do consider visiting patreon.com/MrMattyPlays. MrMattyPlays. I had a little A there by accident. And you can also check out Karak's Patreon, support him there. Keep his lights on, too. We both need it. Anyway, now, with that quick introduction out of the way, let's get into the first wowzers of the week, which is Activision. Now, I made a whole dedicated video to this, Karak. I don't believe you did. So,
wait, which one?
Activision.
I did.
No,
I didn't do a specific. I did a news video, and in one of the news parts, I covered it.
Okay. So, let's get your thoughts first. Activision has split up with Destiny. I keep making that mistake, even when I was recording the video.
Me too.
Yeah. Keep calling them Destiny. I think that's all I know them for now. But yeah, Bungie and Activision have split up. Now Destiny is only a part of Bungie. Bungie is an independent studio. They had a $100 million investment over the summer in 2018. They are currently one of two very big independent developers, the other one being CD Projekt Red. So pretty good company to be a part of there. That's kind of the general news. So now, Karak, go ahead, lay it out for us. What do you think about this big deal?
Well, I think that, like, when you look at a company switching like this and leaving, you have to sort of understand like where they were, and we obviously knew that they were there was various little problems and shit. But I think what's crazy is a lot of people do not know that for the most part this was all brought on by their $100 million influx of money from NetEase, which is a MMO, Chinese MMO.
Yep.
Yeah, and so a lot of people are like, oh, they got from under Activision. It's like, wait, don't immediately celebrate, because does this mean we're going to have Destiny Mobile where you can play on the go, and when you go home, your character transfers, blah, blah, blah. So I overall, I think we're going to hopefully what we're going to see is, regardless of who decided to add the microtransactions, hopefully what we're going to see is Bungie moving away and saying, to get fans back and all this, we're going to remove all that kind of shit. We're going to listen to fans. We're just going to be about our one game, even though they have sort of a second one in the works. And that it becomes sort of more like what Bungie was. Because remember, Bungie was like an independent developer before Microsoft saw them at the Mac conference and saw Halo.
Right.
And was like, damn, we want that. But it is also interesting to see what they said in that little excerpt. They said, like, we thank for 8 years. We thank them for the business. Remember, it was a 10-year contract, so they got out 2 years early, which I'm sure cost them shit tons of cash. But at the end, they say, leaving Activision to work on its own IPs or something. And I was sitting back going, does Activision own any IPs technically? But they do. But it was just a funny way they described it, which seemed it was typical of a movie star divorce.
Yeah.
We're still friends. We're still friends, Matty. It's true sometimes, obviously, but that seemed odd.
Absolutely. I'm not one to ever defend Activision. I had a pretty positive perspective on the whole situation, but I will say that a lot of people were quick to scapegoat Activision as the cause of everything negative that's ever happened with Destiny, and I believe they played a very big part in it. But I also think people forget Bungie made their own mistakes. Yeah, Bungie made a series of their own mistakes that came solely from Bungie, like comments from their company and decisions with the products. That's the stuff that I think people want to see cleared up. I think a lot of folks enjoy Destiny for what it is. With like issues of monetization, grinding. I think DLC like not being playable unless you own. What was it? You can't play the game unless you own the DLC, something like that.
Well, and then later, later, certain parts of the main game you couldn't play unless you owned the DLC. It was weird.
Yeah, exactly.
It was weird.
And so stuff like that, I think people are just hoping to avoid. Like, they kind of go back to a normal company. Stuff like that just doesn't happen anymore. But I didn't enter this like, yeah, Bungie's back, you know, it's the Halo 2-3 days.
Right.
You know, it's like, let's slow our roll there, because they made some funny decisions, and I think it's good in general because we're seeing a lot happen to Activision that's pretty well deserved. You know, they are a company that I've covered for years, and I've seen them just butcher franchise after franchise, and I've said time and time again, like, when's it gonna stop? When are people going to start leaving them, standing up to them? And we've seen over the course of the last few months, a lot of like leads at Blizzard, at Activision are actually packing their bags and leaving. So they're losing some pretty reputable employees. No, I was just completing my sentence. That's all.
No, I'm agreeing with you. That's exactly it. Like some of those guys left prior to this. So what we hope is these guys, they're not the same people. Like you and I have to come to the realization BioWare's not BioWare. And it's like, what's left at Bungie? Is it,
right?
Are they even capable of making what you and I would actually want? Or now have they brought in people? Because it's 8 years. I forgot it's been 8 years.
It's
Dude.
A long deal, yeah.
When did so Destiny 1 was 360, right? And Xbox. And then later they cut the 360 version out. They didn't do DLC for it, if I remember. And so you had it cross-platform, and that's when the deal happened, right?
Why
because
do I feel like
it was also PS4?
I feel like the original Destiny was also on PS4 and Xbox One.
And PS3 and PS4. What I was saying was that so the deal happened prior to the PS4 and Xbox. Yeah.
Yes.
So you just look at this crazy amount of time. Again, 8 years instead of 10. All that kind of stuff. All that time they were filling positions and people were leaving that were geared towards that version of Destiny. So you know what I mean? It's like you make a football team that's about running, and then everybody gets good at the running defense, and it takes a bit of time for you to go, okay, we got to switch everything over. We got to prepare for this other kind of defense. So it's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Never expected it. I honestly didn't. It sounds weird, but
it's interesting because as I did research for my video, it was like, wow, the writing was on the wall here, man. Like, you know, there have been time and time again signs saying like they're leaving. They're for sure leaving, because they even said in an interview, they were talking about the $100 million investment they got, and they're like, our goal is ultimately to become a independent studio.
That is
free
true.
From Microsoft, the likes of Microsoft and Activision. I'm like, they're right there. They're saying like, hey, we're planning on leaving as soon as we have enough.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. So, you know, not only that, but we saw friction between the two. A good example most recently was Forsaken, where we saw Activision being like, we're not pleased with Forsaken sales, which Jim Sterling has a fantastic video. We've talked about it before, Karak, about like below expectations, like Capcom, and they're performing below expectations. Like every game was like, it just had these high unrealistic expectations to take all the money in the world, and because they will never reach that point, they always perform below expectations. And so we saw Activision taking a page out of the book, Forsaken performing below expectations, and then actually Luke Smith over at Bungie had responded on Twitter and said, well, we're not disappointed. He's like, we at Bungie are happy with what we made. So that was in November, though. So I think by that point, it was kind of like set in stone. Okay, we're splitting paths. It's a matter of like when. I feel
writings on the wall kind of thing.
Yeah, he kind of had the freedom to be, okay, we're out. So, yeah, man, it seemed like one of those situations where, as you dug into it, you kind of could tell they're past what was going to happen, and then later into the future. Because I also learned that they had submitted a trademark application for something called Matter, and this happened around the same time as them getting the $100 million investment. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see them kind of rebuild Destiny 2, use that as a platform, and we're going to see Matter launch, if that's what it's going to be called, probably something different, and that'll be like a whole new IP for them. It sounds sci-fi, though, again.
It does sound sci-fi, dude. It sounds like Mass Effect, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, which I guess a Mass Effect with better shooting might be good, because Andromeda tried that. You know, Andromeda tried to switch up the shooting, and I know many people like the multiplayer in Mass Effect 3. So if they could figure it out, but it does feel like another. It certainly doesn't feel like it's gonna have dragons in it.
Yeah.
When it's called Matter, I don't know why. I'm just me being me.
Like yeah, but see, it's funny you bring up Andromeda. For all that game's flaws, I thought it was fun to play. Like I thought it was the best gameplay wise
of them.
Yeah, of them. But the reason I hesitated is because I was like, wait, the AI was really bad in that game when I played it. I remember that being like a really big issue. But outside of that, the control, the powers you could use, the combination of those, it was very good. And you see a lot of that coming into Anthem. I watched some recent gameplay on that, and
Hmm.
some of those javelins that you're in, they actually, it took a lot of, I had to swallow this one, but I was like, yeah, it looks cool. Looks cool.
Yep, same with me.
Yeah.
I've completely gone from not caring to, well, from negative caring
Yeah.
to right in the middle, which is a lot for me. But
Same.
dude, some of the last video they've showed, you look at it and you're all, that sort of looks like it might be fun. Like
Yeah.
that could actually be an enjoyable game.
I was impressed with what I saw. I was like, wow, that's a lot of enemies
Yeah.
on screen. These are really cool abilities. I mean, it looks like fun to control. I was like, oh man, I might play this. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be cool to see for sure.
absolutely. But back on track with Activision, I wonder if Destiny 2, do you think they're going to keep that as a platform, or do you think they're going to kind of go forward and do a Destiny 3 and get everyone like hit the restart button on everything? Like, okay, this is our Destiny.
No, I think if anything, I think if anything, they do have to do Destiny 3, but it'll probably, so you know how it is where like if somebody's in a PR cycle, like you see a movie star in a PR cycle where it's like, this guy's always doing shitty movies or whatever, and then suddenly he's doing The Wrestler, like Mickey Rourke or something, where it's like Oscar award-winning, possible movie. It feels to me like they've had so many hits against them that they are going to do a ton of PR relations kind of things to fix it, including lack of any microtransactions, Destiny 3 probably being very story-driven.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I really do feel that they
Like
will look
Halo.
at Destiny. Yep. And that's on it. And you know why? Because there's a weakness, Maddie. Microsoft has not nailed Halo yet.
Mm-hmm.
This is Outer Worlds versus Fallout, whatever, or Starfield. Sorry.
Yeah,
There's
very true.
there
Very
you
good.
have this company that's known for something not hitting it, and you have this other company that's also known for something almost identical to it that is or looks to be hitting it. And you're like, And I could see Bungie being like, okay, Microsoft can't do Halo. We're going to do our version of Halo the way we've always wanted. We'll call it Destiny, maybe. I absolutely think that's what will happen. That's just me.
Interesting
I,
thought.
I think it helps fans too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good news for Destiny. I don't see Destiny getting worse in the terms of monetization, anti-consumer stuff now. As for the game itself, that's solely up to the developers. We'll see if they still got it going on. I mean, people still say to this day, like, Destiny is one of the most fun to control shooters to play. It feels
Right.
good in your hands. It controls well. Kind of good power fantasy. It's tight. It's just a matter of what content's there. Is it worthwhile or not? Which we've seen in the past. The storytellers of Halo. I think that's not even just because it's a classic. I've gone back and replayed Halo within the last 2 years, and it is still to this day. It's not like I'm sitting there filled with nostalgia. I'm like, wow, this is like the way they build the world, and there's like always something darker beneath it all. Like the Covenant are kind of like jokes at first because you're just mopping them up on your ship, and then they turn out to be incredibly evil and have more nefarious objectives than you originally imagined. And then the Flood steps in and the Brutes step in. Each time it just gets fucking worse, and you're like, okay, they did a fantastic job with that. Not that Destiny 2 didn't, because I can't say that. I don't have enough experience with it. But what I'm more so trying to attest to is that we know Bungie's capable of telling a good story. Maybe now that the shackles are off, where they feel less pressured, we'll say, to pursue more monetization methods and can just focus on the game itself. That's what I'm curious to see most from them. What happens when not the shackles are off, but I'm sure Activision would nudge a little
Right.
bit. But because from what I've read when I was investigating Sekiro, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, was that From Software was saying like Activision was very hands off with the whole development of that game. And I don't believe that Sekiro is going to come out unscathed. I say that as someone who really likes FromSoft's games. I think Bloodborne is one of the best games to come out of the PS4, Xbox One generation. It's a work of art, and I enjoy the Souls games. But I truly find it hard to believe Sekiro just somehow manages to just be untouched throughout all of this in some way. I don't think there's going to be monetization, but does it get rushed? Is it buggy? Is there glitches? Is it something missing from that FromSoft product? That's what I'm looking for, because we're already seeing a little streamlining to an extent. I want to see what it looks like, but we're already hearing that they dropped the stat system from the original Souls games. Now we're seeing a skill tree. Skill trees to me, I don't know about you, that's an instant off button though. I just I feel it
I
simplifies
wouldn't say
things.
it's an instant off button for me, but it just depends on how it works. Because
Right.
there was a skill tree somewhat in Vampire. I was
Right.
fine with that skill tree, but then
Hmm.
Spider-Man's I bitched about a lot to you, even though I liked the game. But there were certain things where I was like, man, I don't like the way this thing unlocks and how it unlocks and all that
Exactly.
shit. So
Yeah.
most of the time, I would agree with you, though.
I know. I'm
For
working.
sure.
I'm working on like a big project about leveling systems because it's interesting to look at how Vampire has a similar. It's a great job bringing that up because it's like Vampire has the same type of skill tree that you'd find in most games, but the difference between a Vampire and a Far Cry, we'll say, is that Vampire you're collecting blood, and that the only way you can cash in is if you sleep, and then the world changes. So leveling up is not only risky, but certain actions that you don't want to have go into place quite yet just might. But in exchange, you need to level up to do more of these quests, and so it's always like kind of a give and take, even though it's that same skill tree. And also, it lacks some of the same incremental feeling that a lot of other leveling systems have, where it's always like plus 20%, plus 40, plus 60, plus 80,
Right.
100, and now you hit 2 enemies. It's like, great, we're here now. Whereas Far Cry, we see often the hunter tree, the stalker tree, the prey tree, like that type of stuff. Like one's an attacker, one's like stealth, one's crafting. And so I just when I saw that now Sekiro is gonna have a skill tree, it can be deep because there's skill trees. One that a lot of people brought up when I was asking about it was actually Final Fantasy X. People were like, "That's a skill tree," and like, look at that, or look at Path of Exile. That's a skill tree, and that thing's
Right.
a fucking forest. So it can be done well. It's just like when I see that, I get a little nervous, and especially when it's a published title from Activision. Long-winded explanation there, but I'll shut up for a
I
second
mean,
now.
that's the thing is like you never know how much. Let's say they were hands off, right? Let's say they were completely hands off. They could be like Microsoft, where they're so hands off that State of Decay 2 releases and it's got a bunch of bugs, which it shouldn't. Or let's say they're only hands on in their QA, but their QA is Activision's QA, and Activision's QA generalizes just a little bit and smooths something over and from a software game that, to be honest, we like because it's a little crunchy. Because a little crunchy can be very interesting when things are a little complex and you're like, what? Where an Activision game, they're like, we don't want it to be, we don't want you to feel dumb, so we're going to make sure everything feels right. So let's say the only way they were helping from software was like QA and polish. That could still affect the game in a negative way. Even if Activision is not there stating, you do it this way, if they are just helping in the pipeline. Because like if you like a certain type of game and they listen to you and you were doing you were doing test for one game, and then I was doing test for that game, but I like something different. Art is, depending on who you trust, that can adjust for sure, because you're getting that feedback, and somebody's like, Matty doesn't like this specific thing, and you're not changing the entire game. But I would doubt that when that game comes out, we don't have a ton of videos called, like, what would you call it? Not the dumbing down of FromSoft. I'm just saying
FromSoft is dead.
Well, goddamn. See, I don't even want to say that because I don't think it'll
being
be anywhere
facetious,
near
I'm
that
being
big. But
facetious,
you know what
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Those exact videos will happen where it'll be like something feels off, or like From Software, whatever, Sekiro, whatever, and then it'll be like, is the game different, or is the core gameplay different to you? Those kind of questioning fucking titles where you're like, nah. It infuriates me. Sorry.
No, I feel you. I wouldn't be too surprised because it's Activision, so they're tied to it. There's increased skeptic behavior because of that, and now the next title coming from them, probably releasing. What is that coming out in a couple months? I don't know if they have a release date for it.
Which
yet.
one?
Sekiro.
My list isn't here.
Let me Google it.
Sekiro is this. Yeah, Sekiro is
it's
March, isn't it?
I thought so. I just wasn't 100% sure. I think it's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice release date. We are looking at March 2019, it says.
March 2019.
Yep. So that increases my concern a little bit, because not that the game is in poor shape. The game's looked excellent.
The timeline does?
Yeah, the timeline, because you actually brought up a great point of like knee-jerk reaction videos, kind of like, here's the big Activision collapse, here's the controversy, here's their next big launch with Activision on the cover.
Right.
It's just all 2 months apart, tops. You know, it's all very close by. And that can just kind of like feed into the next discussion before we know it. So I wouldn't be surprised if what you're predicting actually ends up happening. But it's also very well possible that there's like some legitimacy to those claims. Or rather, I shouldn't say legitimacy, but rather I wouldn't be surprised if after all that's happened with Activision that's what ends up happening legitimately. Yeah, well, we'll see.
I hope not, though.
Yeah, I hope not either, because the game looks cool. You know, some of the stealth takedowns in Sekiro look superb. Really make you feel badass. Anyway.
Did you get a chance to play that at E3? Was that already announced at the E3 you went to, or was that not?
It was there because I have a picture of me next to the statue where I look like a complete goofball. I look so stupid. I look so fucking dumb. It's so funny. So, yeah, that definitely had to have been announced then. I never got a chance to play it, though.
Gotcha.
Never got a chance to play it. All right. Now, we've got on the list EA. EA not valuing a certain policy they had in place. So, yeah, you told me about this one. Do you want to take this one away, or?
Yeah, what did they call it again?
Good game policy, or the great game policy?
Yeah, hang on. So EA not
I got it right here, actually. Hold on. Refuses to honor great game guarantee policy for Star Wars
Battlefront.
And
it's... I fucking had this open and I closed it. Give me 1 second. This is...
Yeah, Jesus here. I actually have it all right here.
Do you have it? Okay, sorry, man.
On my phone.
Sorry.
No, you're good, dude. This information comes from techspot.com. The writer is Cal Jeffrey. Be sure to give them a click. Over the weekend, EA has once again earned the ire of gamers by not honoring its advertised great game guarantee at the Origin store. According to its own webpage, any EA games and some third-party purchased on Origin are eligible for a refund as long as they meet a few simple conditions. If you don't love it, just return it. You may return EA games, full downloads, and participating third-party titles purchased on Origin for a full refund. Refund requests can be made within 24 hours after you launch the game, within 14 days from your date of purchase, or within 14 days from the game's release date if you pre-ordered, whichever comes first. It seemed to be a reasonably straightforward policy. However, for one Reddit user, it is now an ongoing 3-day ordeal. Reddit user Papa MJ, I think that's how it's pronounced, or Papa
It
MJ.
is. I think it's Papa MJ.
Yeah, we're gonna go with Papa MJ. Purchased Star Wars Battlefront from the Origin store on January 2nd. After installing and launching the game, he was disappointed to find there was nobody on the server, essentially rendering the multiplayer game, unplayable. So I just want to preface, this is the first Battlefront, which, yes, even before the launch of 2, I got it for $5 or on PSN, and my friend and I just tried to fire it up, and the servers were completely dead at that point. So by now, yes, with 2 well out, probably a completely dead game. Papa MJ opened a refund request ticket well within the 24-hour time limit, but was told the purchase could not be refunded. The first customer rep he spoke with told him that it had to be more than 24 hours since the game launched. When he pointed out that the ticket was created before the time limit was up, the rep told him that the policy meant 24 hours from purchase. Even after quoting what the policy explicitly states on the website, the Redditor was still stonewalled. Within 24 hours after you launched Within 24 hours after you first launched the game, Papa MJ said to the customer service chat, "This is black on white on your website. I can understand, however, we are not able to refund the game," the EA representative replied. The user had several other similar conversations with at least 5 different reps. None were able to grant his refund. They also contradicted each other about whether they could reference the time at which the game was first started. Some said they could, others said it was impossible to know when he launched it. When he asked to be put in touch with a supervisor, he was at first denied and had his ticket forcefully closed. When he finally was connected to a supervisor, it appeared it was to be the same rep just signed into a supervisor chat account. I finally got a hold of a supervisor, whom I suspect not to be only an ordinary employee, but also the same person I talked to, whom I had to hand the conversation to a supervisor over in the first place, or who I asked to hand the conversation to a supervisor over in the first place. He is now into day 3 of his battle with his refund. He reported he was reportedly contacted by someone at EA who will take personal ownership on the case, whatever that means. The game only cost him about €15, which he doesn't care about, At this point, it has been boiled down to a matter of principle for the angry Redditor. Yes, I want my money back, but I feel like that's no longer the point why I'm doing this. He said, EA has been mistreating and neglecting the most important product, their players. If I let this slide and give up, they will do it again and again because they can get away with it. So far, his post has received 8,700 upvotes and hundreds of supportive comments. Bam. That is
the thing.
wow.
You can't fuck up with customer service now either.
Cannot.
Like, it's such a big deal. It's such a big deal. It's like, look at Epic. Epic immediately switched. They've only had their store live for just like a little bit of time, and they immediately switched it to the same as Steam's because the customer service and the way they do their refunds. Such a big deal now. It's like, gamers, like, you can't fuck around. If you have a promise out there, you might as well like, you might as well just do it because you're going to lose your 40 or 50 bucks. But let me tell you, much worse if you don't.
Yeah, man. I mean, nowadays with the way the internet's grown, there's just so many people looking for your gotcha moment. But also, like in this case, I don't think this guy wanted to just full on blow up EA's spot. Like, everyone knows they suck. But like when you're trying to just get a refund and it just becomes this like increasingly awful issue, especially for such an old game, Battlefront 1. Like, they're trying to retain a €15 purchase on Battlefront 1. That's what kind of blows my mind. It's not even like a current full price game that they're really trying to hold on to.
Yeah, like it would make more sense.
Right, like to some extent at least. At least then I could be like, okay, full price game, it's new products, like they want it in consumers' hands, maybe they have more plans for it, but it's like, no, this game is dead, gone, to the wind. Right. Doesn't matter anymore. Why are we, it's more trouble than it's worth. Just give the guy his money back, and that's it. Especially when their policy states they'll do that. That's it. It was within 24 hours.
Yeah, it's such a disaster with customer service too, because it's already hard enough to get it right, even if you do everything you're supposed to. Mm-hmm. Like, because the person's still mad about the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you gave them their money back, they'd still be like, I had to get my money. You'd still have a story, but instead, like, this kind of thing rolls around, it just becomes even more of a line of bullshit. When I originally saw that, I actually thought it was for this last Battlefield. So I didn't realize it was for the one prior, which then you have to look. I mean, then you do have to put some onus on, like, the consumer, right? At some point, you do have to say, listen, like, can you refund your 1970 Dodge Dart? Like, if you don't like it?
Yeah.
In 2012, so there's some onus on the.
I agree, and there always should be. There always should be. I think in this situation though, where he tried, was denied, I wonder if maybe it's something where this policy, how old is it? Does it apply to the games prior to the creation of said policy?
Oh, absolutely true.
Where EA could have been, hey, this is our new policy, applies to games from here on out. So then the staff gets the message of anything prior to that game, prior to that date, can't refund that.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, and they all handle it different. Like every company, well, you and I think, have talked about this. We may not have, but I was trying to refund No Man's Sky. And back when it was refundable, Sony was doing refunds and Sony was refusing all refunds, which is sort of typical Sony, to be honest. They're not great.
Thing.
Microsoft has usually been really good, and Microsoft was doing them. And then Sony sort of got wind Microsoft was doing them through Twitter and all this, and Sony was like, all right, we better start doing them. And then Sony started giving them out occasionally. It all feeds on each other. It's so crazy. It's just like, it just requires just a little bit before, like, somebody, somebody ends up, especially with trying to please the customer, where you do, I don't know, like, for me, $40, if I was the manager there at a client support center, I'd probably just be like, fuck it, whatever. Like, whatever. You can have it. Because, dude, people can cause such an issue now. And you're not getting anything out of that person for the game now anyway. So just refund it, get some positive, and how do you know, if you do refund it, that guy or girl won't buy another game from your company? Like, that's completely possible.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the way I look at it is, they have so many monetization methods within their games. Like, they return, okay, give him his €15 back. I guarantee within the next hour, someone is spending 15 euros on some Ultimate Team pack, and you are making that
Right.
money back, hand over fist,
Right.
before a game sale is even done. Like, I guarantee it will happen.
Yeah.
So
Totally true.
that's why I just wonder, like, that's part of the reason why these microtransactions end up in games, because developers go, well, the sales only get to a certain point. It's like, I'm sorry, the publishers usually go, well, the sales only get us to a certain point to continue supporting the product and keep us afloat. We need these methods in the games. It's like, okay, so now you're getting your tons and tons of boats of cash, but you're still gonna hold back on certain aspects. That's what frustrates me. Like I said, I totally agree on your aspect. There is some part of the fault has to fall on the consumer. They have to be aware of the product they're buying, especially when you know it's multiplayer only. It is Star Wars Battlefront 1. The second one has been out in the wind for over a year now. Yeah, it's like, you got to know that. But on the other hand, I think EA should just that's a simple return that should be done, because I'm sure
just do it and move on.
Yeah, because, like,
you know,
think if you're in this guy's position and he goes to return this game, chances are he's probably thinking it's Battlefront 1. This is an easy return. It's if I don't like it, I'll just return it because it's such an old game, they'll probably just fire it back. So do you think EA predicts that logic and goes, okay, well, we're not going to really do any givebacks on that type of stuff?
I have no clue how they do this kind of thing, because to be honest, most of the time switching, you heard the thing about the customer support person switching, possibly being the same one moving to a supervisor's account. So normally,
that's wild.
What? Yeah, because as somebody, this was my job, was setting up call centers around the world, and they were help centers, and setting them up. What you have now usually is a center where the manager doesn't have much, if any, power over the normal employee anymore. It used to be where you would come to me. The problem is that creates a pyramid, and if I'm sick, then everybody's fucked. Like, if I don't come to work. So what you do is you give that power to everybody, you train them correctly, and they're able to make those choices. It almost seems to me, if this person switched and made the change, it felt a little bit like a caller calls, they piss you off, you say nope, you hang up, they call again, you pissed them off, so, like, you sort of pretend something changed, and you go in and you're like, okay, they can have that refund. Yeah. Oh yeah, my manager said blah blah blah. I want to know how he knew, or how it even got out that it might have been the same employee on a manager's account.
It had to have been, like, I'm gonna guess, style of writing.
Oh, yeah, attitude? You mean like style of communication?
Yeah,
that's true. No, you're right.
It's like that unwritten rule. Like, you can tell who it is behind a phone based on how they write. Like, when my girlfriend texts me, like, I'll know it's her writing versus, like, my best friend. It's just something about that. But then again, I feel like if you're working at, like, a customer service thing, that's totally different, because usually it's very grammatically friendly. It's very professional.
A lot of sirs at the starting of everything. A lot of blah blah blahs. Yeah, for sure. So
we'll see if that refund ever happens. My guess is it eventually will, just because there's 8,700 thumbs up on Reddit, and I'll hear a huge bunch of blowback worth 15 euros. Probably not, but it's EA. So
how about you? Does it? For me, it takes a lot for me to do a refund. And what I mean by that is I usually hold off for a bit. I think, did I know enough? And if it's a technical issue, refund for sure. But if it's like maybe a couple bugs plus I just don't like the game, a lot of times I'll just be like, well, you know what? I fucking bought it. Like,
I
don't know.
For me, I have never been a big return person, because for gaming, I should say, because I research this shit out of a game before I buy it with my money. So if I don't like the product, whose fault is that? I mean, like, I knew what I was getting going into it almost entirely. Like, if it's buggy, if it's broken, if it's a shitty game, like, even then I kind of know, okay, if it's a really bad game, like if it's Ride to Hell Retribution, I know it's bad. I bought it for a series. Do I get mad and try to return it? It's like, no, I bought the product knowing what it was. As for certain things, like if I were to buy a new shoe rack for my closet to kind of like organize my shoes and it was missing a pipe, instant return. I'm not hesitant about that type of stuff when it comes to assembly, building things, that type of like I buy a new dresser. If there's like a huge scratch in the back of it, I'm gonna probably look into maybe returning that. But like to me, sometimes I wonder, is it worth the effort? Because I'm a perfectionist when it comes to creating my videos and getting my discussions right and that type of stuff. But when it comes to like organization, like you can see literally over on my desk, like I'm clearly not a perfectionist in some manner. So I'm not saying that people do return are perfectionists, but you know, like something like that is not enough for me to go out of my way to make a return. I will say I did have to work with EA's customer service one time. I remember my debit card had was stolen through their store, and someone charged like $800 worth of I think it was Plants vs. Zombies microtransactions. Yeah, right.
You know that's not Matty.
Yeah, I was like, all right, like I thought someone would stop this at some point, but I told the EA, I was like, hey, this isn't on me. I didn't buy this, and they were quick to refund. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so you know, they were, and it was like a non-hassle thing either. It was literally like I think a half an hour of just getting the situation organized, telling them what happened, showing them like proof that there was no receipts, no purchase on my account, and they were
that would be like if you looked and they're all, this person bought Far Cry Primal t-shirts, sweatshirts. Be like, well, it's not Matty. Karak stole Matty's fucking stole his credit card and used it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they did at that point was I told them like, you can just ban my debit card so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
like in
and
my head, I'm like, I'm
one.
not fucking buying from your store anyway. So I was like, yeah, just ban my debit card so it doesn't happen again. Yeah. So that's the only time I've really had an encounter with them. Are you a return person? Do you usually go through the hassle?
No, like I said, most of the time I know I'll definitely use Amazon returns, definitely. But usually I know what I'm getting if it's tech for like this kind of shit we do. We never know what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I will return that stuff more likely than not. But like clothes and stuff, I always know what size I am. I'll make sure I'll be all, dude, I don't want to have to ship, because the idea of shipping like clothes back grosses me out, because it's like someone else wore this and that someone else is me, but I don't want to send you my grease, my man grease. Like, here's a shirt I wore and decided I didn't like. So I'll sit there
the worst
for
is
days.
Shoes. People who return
Dude.
shoes.
So I just won't return it on I'll just usually keep it. We also donate a lot. So like if something comes up and I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't like this anymore, or I fluctuate and I'm like, oh, this is too big or this is too small, then I'll donate it. I won't return it. I think tech is the only thing I return, and games, very rare.
Yeah.
Except I don't know if I told you the embarrassing story. I don't think I did. Sims 4.
I love embarrassing stories. Let's go.
Dude, so speaking of digital storefronts, I go into EA and I'm a Sims fan. And I'm like, I go to Origin. I'm like, you know what, man? I'm going to buy some expansions to Sim. Grim will like this story because he's a Sims 4 fan. The problem with Origin is it'll list the same DLC in various packages. It was late, I admit, and I start buying these packages. And it doesn't dawn on me till I've bought all the packages that all the packages are repeat of the other packages with just slight alterations.
Oh, God.
So, dude, so I didn't know. So I buy it, right? And I don't look at the price because in my head, the price, and it doesn't warn you. This pisses me off. It doesn't say like Steam. Steam will be like, whoa, bitch, you already bought this. Like you already own this game. Not Premiere. Premiere will be like, thanks. So I hit send, right? Dude, I hit send. The next day, I go, oh, I'm going to check I think it was my PayPal at the time. I'm like, I'm going to check my PayPal account. And I log in, and there's like a $455 purchase from
your stomach
from
just
Origin.
Hits the floor. You're like, oh,
yeah.
okay,
And so then I'm like, oh, God, I got to turn my credit cards off. I got to blah, blah, blah. So I log into Origins thinking somebody stole my account. And then I look at it, and I see Sims. And it's like Sims 4. Sims 4 Ultimate Edition, and then I went and bought all the expansions that were in the Ultimate Edition because the Ultimate Edition only said what the top expansion was. You had to extend it to see the others. That was embarrassing. I told my wife, and she's just like, you idiot. Well,
that's funny.
Whatever. We all do stupid shit.
When we had Takedown on, we talked a lot about Dragon Ball Super, and like when I order cards online, a single will come in the mail. And that usually takes about a week and a half. And by that, I always wondered, let's say like someone sends me a card and it's kind of like, you know, if the ends are folded or like the card's a little creased, it's a little bent. I'm not a perfectionist with my cards, by the way. So like if my corners are a little bent, I don't freak out. But like if I paid for that and it's coming in like that, I always wondered what will happen to me internally. Like, will I feel the need to return it, or did I just wait so long for this that I'm just like, oh, I'll take it. I don't give a fuck. You know, like that's the type of stuff I always wonder about myself. Like what happens when the situation pops up. I do too. I try to at least.
Yeah, because of that. Yeah. Because of the same thing. I don't want. Sometimes I'll buy. Amazon has a refurbished where their warranty is actually, they always guarantee it'll be better than the original. So they'll take the item, check it, and it'll say slight scratches. If it's technical stuff, it depends. I might get it, but like if it was a Dragon Ball card or something with art on it, I don't think I would buy it used. Well, it would take a lot if it was unavailable or if it was outrageously expensive.
It's interesting that you brought up refurbished products, because I remember Spawnwave, we've had him on the show before. He does a video series now called like I ordered a 360 or I ordered a GameCube or whatever from GameStop in 2019, and this is what I got. And because he's like very tech oriented, so he'll like open the fucking thing up and just like identify part by part what has changed and like what's in there. It's crazy. It's so cool.
And the human dust that's inside of it that you used.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we got for EA and their return policies. Hopefully Papa MJ gets his cash back. And now we move on to another digital platform. This time it's not Origin, it is Steam. So news broke this week that Ubisoft was ditching Steam in exchange for Epic's Game Store.
Epic's Game Store.
Now, I made a video on this. I thought it was pretty crazy. I think as a business for Ubisoft, it makes sense. You make 18% more, which I always say this as a business, anything to increase that bottom line. That's always what you're doing. If you're one of these companies, they're doing anything. It's about what comes as a sacrifice with that when they're chasing the money down. Yeah. So to them, okay, switching a storefront, is that a big deal? I looked at it as originally, okay, you know, like we're going from Steam to Epic. Some people are like, well, that's exclusivity, but it's also on Uplay, which I don't know. I don't think that's a difference maker because people hate Uplay. So for folks, mostly, I think Steam was the alternative to that. And because Steam has better refund policies in place than Epic, I think that's where most folks get concerned, because now we're seeing Epic kind of get exclusive stuff on the PC, and then maybe Steam will respond in turn. But my hopes when seeing that news was, okay, maybe Steam will see this and start to respond in a way to start innovating, to start building something, right? That's what I was hoping for personally when I saw this news. But I get there was a bit more of a negative aspect that not that I didn't consider or think of, but rather I thought the positives kind of outweighed it. But I want to know, where do you stand on this whole situation?
I hate extra stores. Okay. I will say that.
Okay.
With a passion.
Gotcha.
But Steam, I swear to shit, I always call him Steve. I'm pretty sure Steam only has one CSR named Steve. They need to fucking expand. They have shit. I'm doing a video on discoverability on Steam right now, which is completely broken, by the way. So, for example, I can say I want to look at VR games and click the VR filter, and the first thing that'll pop up is a hentai game that's a fucking choose your own adventure. Not even VR. Completely broken filtered system. So new companies come in, they're like, we want to release a game. Not the shit companies that pay $100 just to release it on Steam, but somebody who, you know, you've worked for a year on your game, and discoverability is almost zero on Steam.
Right.
And they won't work on it because they don't have to. Because Gabe is just rolling around in fucking Scrooge McDuck money. He doesn't give a shit. So now with Epic coming along, Epic's got that sweet, sweet Fortnite cash. And they're like, yeah. And remember, all this is a money game. All Ubisoft had to do was identify the difference in amounts that they're going to get from Epic versus Steam, identify how many games are sold on Steam, the type of games, and how many are sold on Uplay of their games, because this is just one big company. And I bet you they do sell on Steam, but I also bet you people who are Ubisoft fans probably use their store. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm just saying that they probably got those two positives, looked at them from a money standpoint, because of course it's financial. They looked at them from a money standpoint and are like, fuck this. You know, like this, like maybe we'll lose $1 million, but in the long run, you know, we'll now have a foothold first on Epic, which I think is also a big deal, because you know how it is. It's like it's your first best friend when you're a kid. You're tight, right? Friends who come along later, you're like, yeah, we're good friends, but this friend that I knew for a long time is tight. These big companies, they join up to help each other, and suddenly Epic's like, you know, Ubisoft, do you want to do something together? You know what I mean? Like, or they take into account these companies that jump in early. So I think it makes sense. I just hate it. I don't like multiple stores, Maddie, because I had Uplay and Steam Star Trek Next Generation or Star Trek VR, the Bridge Commander game, and you could play PC versus PS4. But if you're playing on the PC, you always had to have Steam and Uplay both up. Somebody else could have bought it just from Uplay, so they don't have Steam up. And connecting was a stone cold bitch. 2 different platforms with their own different systems of talking through your internet. Steam uses different port forwards. Uplay, by the way, has shit port forwarding. Sometimes people will be playing on Uplay, can't see anybody. They have to go into their modem, fucking change shit, right? So I don't want Epic adding a fucking another one. Can you imagine that?
Right.
And
Gotcha.
Who's to say Ubisoft is not going to release Destiny in 6 months on Steam too? Then you do have 3 at minimum. And that's the thing that I don't like. But the competition might be worth the pain. I sort of dig the competition. Not a fan of Epic, but I think that they today or yesterday they changed their return policy to be identical to Steam's, which is 2 days or 2 hours or 2 weeks. So if you played less than 2 hours and owned it for less than 2 weeks, you can return it. And they didn't have that, and they switched it, which is now they're the same as Steam.
Well, that's good.
So now it's Steam's turn, right? Like that's my hope is Steam. Valve goes, fuck, we got to do some shit. What are we gonna do? That's my hope. But I don't know about you. I heard a rumor. I did say the name on my podcast. I hinted about it last Friday, but the rumor is Tencent is also making a store.
Boy.
And that's a massive Chinese company
Yes.
that just bought 30% of the Vermintide devs yesterday. And they own parts of Epic as well. And it scares the shit out of me, Maddie.
Yeah.
Like it's scary. The idea of Tencent owning a giant store is
That's the thing is we saw over time just like one more launcher, and it was a joke.
for sure.
It was a joke. People were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
another launcher! Oh my god, another icon on my desktop." It got worse and worse. And
Yep.
I told people, I was like, they're cutting out the middleman. That's why you see Bethesda.net. That's why you see Uplay, because if you buy from that store, there's no longer Steam, yourself, and Uplay or Ubisoft. Sorry. Now you just have yourself and Ubisoft. There is not that middleman that's serving as a platform. The company makes more money. It's less of a headache. Once again, if you are a business owner and you're one of these big companies that's got a name for yourself and you have a lot of IPs to manage, it makes sense to have a place to aggregate all of them onto one platform and try to your best to cut out that middleman. But does it suck? Yes, it definitely does. I game on PC mainly for when I have to review. I find myself more console oriented, which I know some people will be disappointed with, but when it comes to me, I keep my desktop nice and clean. I'm going to look right now. I have Bethesda.net, Steam, and yeah, that's it. That's all. And Magic the Gathering Arena, separate client in its own, but that's all I've got right now. I was going to download Epic though, because I love Supergiant games. I love them. They made Bastion.
to get Prey.
I loved it. Transistor. I loved it. And then
Pyre,
fantastic game.
Yeah, I loved it.
And then now they announced Hades early access. I was like, okay, that's probably going to be what pushes me over the top to go and download this launcher. I want to play the Division 2.
Me too.
When the reviews season comes around, am I gonna have to play on the PC? If so, then yeah, I wouldn't have an issue downloading Epic's Game Store. But like I said, this comes from someone who doesn't game on PC a terrible amount. Where for someone who I imagine would exclusively game on PC, it's probably very annoying to have to flip between all these launchers to play different games. I'm surprised there hasn't been a client created that connects.
There is
to all of the. There is, okay.
There is.
I was just going to say, there's $1 million idea.
There's $1 million.
Right there.
Exactly. No, there is one, and it works fairly well. The problem is, though, Maddie, is all it's doing is hiding that it's opening them anyway. Does that make sense? So it looks like it's your front. It's a little bit like a console, because a console still has Origins. It's just you sign in once, and then it's an app.
Right.
Where on your Windows, it's usually a tab or an app, and you got your browser, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
There is one, yeah, that merges them. And I've tested it out. It works pretty well. It requires some manual shit though, and I think what happens is at that point there's one more technical hurdle, and so I think that people are between bitching and taking the step to fix it with the technical hurdle, and the gap there is fairly large. I don't know how long that'll be large. I think I don't know if that company's looking or that developer is looking at this going, all right, one more store, because that could help him. He doesn't charge. It's free. It's on GitHub, which is like a developer's place where you can just go and
heard of it.
get executables. But it does just hide it though, Matty. I mean, that's the big thing, is like you may feel like you're not opening them all, but all of the problems, port forwarding and so forth, if they exist, you will still encounter. It's just you're going to see this one front end when you encounter them. So
gotcha.
The plus and a minus, I think, overall.
It still doesn't fix the primary issue. So, because it would be just so nice if you had like, you sign in to this account and it remembers your sign in information for like your Steam, your Epic Game Store, Uplay, Bethesda.net,
right.
The list goes on. And if it remembers all that when you sign in, it's just like there's little tabs on the top with their like respective logos, and when you click on each of those, it just it like connects you to that account. Mm-hmm. So let's say, okay, I'm on Steam, I'm playing this. Okay, I want to go play Division 2 on Uplay. So you just you click the tab on the top on the Uplay button. Boom, you're in that. You're connected. Click on Division 2, play it. That's it.
I know why people. Yeah, I know why people like the console. Like for me, there's sometimes just going to the homepage and being like clunk, and it just does whatever you want it to do.
Times,
yeah. So I mean, I would say my gaming's probably 70% on PC, but there's certain times where I'm on the console for whatever reason. I'm like, oh yeah, like I get it, because it's not doing all the other things. Right. It's the power of a PC is amazing. It's the greatest thing in the world. But at times, like even my friends who are like really pro PC, like, dude, I have one friend, he's got 3 PCs. They're all power PCs. Like they're not like a normal PC. They're like the cream of the crop. And I'll be playing a game for review, and we'll release the reviews, and then I'll start getting emails from him. 12:01 a.m. guaranteed. It'll be like, hey man, is there a problem with like the DLL driver for this game? I don't know why. He'll be like, because I can't get it to boot. And then it'll be the next 6 hours. I go to sleep, I wake up, 6 hours of him like posting to me all of his problems, and I'll post back and say, I don't know, man, I reviewed the Xbox version or something like that. And he'll be like, you son of a fuck.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is. Sometimes they won't give you the PC version at all.
The worst is when you put in a review request, and they're like, "Do you want the PS4 or Xbox One?" I'm like, I don't care, but I'm sure PS4. And then they get like, don't give you a review copy. You're like, okay, that's fine. We'll make do with what we got. Oh
yeah.
And they're like, yeah, Xbox went out first, but we had you marked as PS4. It's like, why isn't there like an option for either? I think Resident Evil did that this year, and I was so happy about it.
They did.
It was like Xbox One, PS4, either. I was like, fucking either. I was like, either. Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah, it's so crazy that like people hadn't thought of either before, but I saw the forum and noticed that instantly. It was the first forum from the company I know you're talking about. Like, even from them, a big company does not usually say either, and you get it and you're like, oh, thank God, because I always feel bad, but I'll email a person and say all this extra shit. I'll be like, PS4 please, but if PS4 codes are delayed for whatever reason, I will accept this kind of, you know what I mean? And you got this long diatribe and you're like, I hope this person remembers. I mean, and should they have to? Probably not. So putting in either as a checkbox seems to be the best way to go.
Yeah, man. Thing is, filling out some of those forms are scary because, like, it's not like a personal email. It's just like you're just in that.
You're
list.
One in a line, I think. Well, you must be one in a line too, dude. Because I don't know about you, but I have accidentally filled it out so I have 2 business emails, an older one and a new one, and so I always leave them all open. And I've accidentally filled out the same form a month separate for the same game.
Oh. And
they'll be like, oh, here's a code. And then the other company or the other email, will pop up and say, here's a code. And I'll always return it. I'll be like, hey, I must have signed up with 2, I apologize. But I'm like, how many people would be able to just fucking fake that and spam that? And how many of these companies aren't watching and they're playing a game a week early, number one. Number two, they've got 4 fucking codes. Yeah, I don't know if that is happening, but it seems like it's not hard.
Makes you wonder. It's happened before where I've gotten like 2 codes from different emails too, and I've just been like, hey, you can just send that off to
Yeah.
someone else.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have no problem sending it back, but I want to say that at least 10% of the reason I send it back is because I never, ever want them to question if I did it on purpose. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll send it back because I don't want somebody to later go, hey, the same person got 2 codes. So I always am like,
Yeah. Nope.
you know, even if it's, yep, because I'm like, I don't ever want a company to be like, motherfucker, we're never giving you a code before you requested 2. And you're like, I just didn't think about returning.
I feel you on that. Last topic on our news list. Not really news, but rather we're just going to talk games now because this next month is going to be hella busy, and we're going to talk about what we're playing right now, what we're reviewing, what we're looking most forward to. Karak, you're the main review guy. Let's hear what you've got on your platter.
No More Heroes, Travis Strikes Again. Travis Strikes Again, yeah, for the Switch. Odd game. Did you ever play No More Heroes?
No, I've heard about it though. I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I think why do I feel like I heard it wasn't that great? Was that wrong?
So, it was weird. It was one of those games where it was a little bit like Death Stranding, where you know some people are going to love it even if it sucks.
Yeah.
This new one though got a good review from Famitsu or whatever, but they're not really a super trustworthy Japanese organization. They reviewed it positively last month. It's interesting. I'll withhold. This will be my first or second true Nintendo review, which is weird that they gave it to me because I was like, they're the ones who contacted me. And then I'm reviewing Ace Combat. So fucking stoked for man.
I'm curious to see how that is. I haven't looked into that one at all.
I got to play a VR mission, Maddie, and I'm telling you, man, like I hate the PSVR, but it's almost worth it. It's almost worth it.
Add that on the list of Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
Beat Saber.
That's unfortunate, though.
Boom.
That's it. That's unfortunate that there's only 3, though.
Yeah.
But, dude, I'm telling you, like, and I was singing when I was, like, playing the VR version because I was doing a test, and we were flying. I was like, highway to the danger zone. You know, I was just like, it was like Top Gun, man. It's like all I wanted was some fucking goggles and a scarf. That shit was ace. There's that, and then there's Resident Evil. That's later. That's 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.
Roughly.
Something else came up that surprised. Oh, Dead or Alive got delayed. So my plan was to be playing that right now, but Dead or Alive 6 got delayed until I think we figured March.
March 1st, yep.
Those are the current ones I'm doing for review. On the side, I'm just doing like Sims and The Hunt, Call of the Wild, stuff like that. What about you?
Review-wise, I got my requests in for everything. So the main focus is Resident Evil, Kingdom Hearts,
Kingdom Hearts, yeah.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is a big one. Every game that's coming out on the 15th of February, I got my eyes on. And now that Dead or Alive got delayed, I'm hoping I'll be able to review that as well because I really enjoyed the 5th one. I thought that was a fun game. I've never had a chance to play a Dead or Alive game at launch. I remember growing up on the original Xbox, I think it was, Dead or Alive 3 came on a demo disc. It was like my favorite demo disc because it had that. I think it had Fusion Frenzy, I want to say.
It did. It had Fusion Frenzy.
Yeah.
The fucking like a TV show.
Yeah.
Futuristic
and
TV
you'd,
show
like,
game.
hit bugs for a game and you'd run around in like a little ball and oh my god, man, that game
was awesome.
Oh, I loved it. It's so much fucking fun. I could not get enough of that game growing up. Never owned the full product though, believe it or not. Never owned
Me
that.
neither.
That
Me
was
neither.
I played the shit out of that demo over and over and over because it would just randomize the games. So it was like I owned the game the whole time. So yeah, I mean the demo was fantastic. But anyway, Dead or Alive evokes a little bit of that nostalgia from back then. So it's gonna be nice to play a DOA game at launch. Out of everything that's coming out on the 15th, I am most looking forward to. I'd say I'm most curious about Crackdown. Just based off performance, what other reviewers are going to say. And also, you know, is it going to be worth all the trouble that Microsoft went through to get it out? Or is it just like, you know, here's your exclusive. Boom. That's it. I really hope for Microsoft's sake and the developer's sake, I forgot who's developing it, that it actually ends up being a good game and that people are really happy with the product. As for what I'm personally most excited for, definitely Metro. Jump Force, kind of there too. but most excited for Metro for sure.
I'm excited for Metro, but I have this sinking feeling. So Metro, you already put your request in for Metro,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So, but you know who Metro's using as PR?
Tinsley, I believe, right?
Yeah, but their company, Deep Silver, is the
yes.
Coach me. So, I just have this nervousness that we are going to run into some issues. You probably won't, because I think you've done Metro coverage before. Did you review Last Light?
Yes, I did.
I think I did too.
But a redo, but
the original.
Yeah,
okay.
2013.
I have just noticed they have been more touchy with review code versus streamer code for their games. So I'm just a tiny bit nervous about Metro.
Gotcha.
And how like people like you and I mean, now I stream way more than I used to. I stream a lot, so it's like it's possible, but I just have this. They changed their ways recently, and it's been difficult to sort of gauge. You know how it is. Sometimes you go, okay, I've got a fair chance, or I've got no chance. With them, I think it'll be questionable this year, for me at least, to sort of see what I get.
I don't bank on, like, because you were like, oh, you covered Metro a lot in the past. Like, I don't bank on that anymore because, like, Andromeda just left me scarred. Because I remember Andromeda, I was easily like, I don't do numbers often, but I was like, I'm curious. I was like definitely in the top 10 for Andromeda, like in the terms of, as a channel who covered that game a lot. And I remember like going everywhere for a review copy, every freaking where, dude. And no responses, nothing, like radio silence. I mean, obviously the game spoke for itself, and I still made my review regardless, and it still did well, which I was happy about. But like that's when I was like, okay, it doesn't even fucking matter if I give their game a bunch of my time.
Right.
It's not like I do it because I want the review copy, but like, it usually kind of goes like hand in hand. It's like, okay, this guy specialized in this, he connects to a direct audience with what we do, and in turn we're gonna give him a copy. Like it didn't even work like that for Andromeda. So like with Metro, I hope, because that's a game I'm looking forward to, but also I know one that my audience cares a lot about. I put out a tweet yesterday asking people like what game they're most looking forward to out of Metro, Jump Force, Crackdown, and Far Cry New Dawn. And like I'd say an overwhelming majority were like easily Metro. Everyone was like, Metro's my game. So, and that's after Metro moved into a more competitive date, too. That's when they shortened their release date and brought it up a little bit. So, granted, I have, like I said, a primarily post-apocalyptic following, but, yeah, man.
And graphically, I think Metro nails it, too.
Oh, God, yeah.
So I think it's easier to look forward to Metro, even if maybe you might even enjoy another game even more. But that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people are interested, especially because they, as they've been doing the videos you and I talked about prior to the podcast, the making of and all that kind of stuff. There's more and more people are starting to like really like look at it and go, oh, this is a thing. And it's getting closer. Because remember, even back 6 months ago, you or I were like, it'll be delayed, or or will it be delayed? I remember we had a discussion about it.
Yeah,
we were
like,
what
I played wasn't that great. So
yeah, and I think that's when that is correct. That is correct. Because I remember you were like, dude, that's the one game where I played and it was too weighty or something.
Yeah,
like, guys, everything's slow.
Because that's what I said. Because we were talking about when it went gold. Yeah, it's
that's
like I'm excited for it, because I'm optimistic on the story at the very least. Like I said, I'm still concerned about the gameplay, but also I know my audience has a huge investment in it. I loved 2033 and especially Last Light. Last Light was fantastic. So that's a game that's really stuck with me over the years. I remember it very fondly. So yeah, with Exodus, I guess it was like it almost kind of shook me up a little bit when like I played the E3 version and was like, oh god.
Yeah, and saw how it was.
Yeah, I was like, this doesn't feel that good. Like, what the fuck, But like as we get closer, it's like almost an anxious build up. It's like, okay, like just give me the game. I gotta know if this shit's good or not. So that's kind of where I sit. As for what I'm playing right now, Yakuza Kiwami 2. Yeah, I know, right? Huge fist bump.
Fucking game is so good, man.
Yeah.
God damn, that game is good.
I gotta say, I I imagine because Kiwami 2 is longer than the first one, this is probably why. But the first one really managed to kind of pull me into the main story really fast.
Faster, yeah.
Yeah, like I thought the intro in Kiwami 1 was incredible. I loved it. There's just something very epic about it, like how it opened up and he's standing there kind of holding the gun and you hear the police sirens outside. It's raining, it's dark. It really like sets the tone. And then kind of catches you off guard with some of the really funny sub stories. And when you go into Kiwami 2 expecting that, I kind of thought some of the excuses to like get rid of Haruka, like that was kind of strange. She's like, I'm just gonna go to Sunflower now. I'm like, so you're just gonna let your now dad like just go and fight crime and stuff. I thought that was a little strange. And so far, I thought the way he got wrapped into this issue, like you just saw it coming right away.
Yeah.
You saw it like right as the game started. You're like, okay, this guy's probably gonna get shot. Like, you know, I'm gonna. Get
And I don't think they
somehow.
changed anything, did they? In this, I think these are all the same. It's like the exact same cutscenes and everything from the original because this is a remake, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no,
I
there
believe
is
so.
no fixes to the story. Gotcha. Okay.
I believe so. And that's not to say it's bad because sub-story wise, this game is still amazing. Gameplay wise,
It's so weird.
Still amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think weird would be the best for sub-stories, but it just it's so strange and mysterious that I can't help but always like indulge in every single one I come across. Like it always is detracting my attention, and I love how they always do something strange and then pack it with a moral message, like a really deep one too. That kind of can hit home for some people. It always surprised me that this developer did that because the game is always like playing a tug of war with itself in the most fun way possible. I heard there's some type of like strategy game involved because I keep getting people in these sub stories. They're like, so and so is now your ally, and I'm sitting there going like, what is that? So I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay. Okay. Have you got to where you own the hostess bar?
No.
Have you got to? Okay. Shit. Okay. I'm not gonna say anything.
I'm only.
Yeah. I don't want to
on-
ruin anything.
I'm only about 5 hours in. Only about
Okay.
5 hours
All
in.
So yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's not like Odyssey. Remember how Odyssey you were playing it and like you didn't know there was an extra tab and suddenly it's like the cultist tab and you're like, Jesus
Right.
Christ, really? You know, it's not necessarily like that, but in a way it is in a weird way because what happens is you start getting things and yes, you can go and do stuff at these locations, which is a little bit like the prior games, but it's not a strategy game in the way you think. I'll say that.
Okay.
Or the way you seem to hint. But it's in depth. It for sure is in depth. If you haven't got to the hostess bar, did you get to the guy who wants to take pictures with you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
dude. I didn't want to ruin
Yeah.
it because I was just like, well, I don't want to fucking ruin it for him. But holy
Oh.
shit,
That one-
I was fucking dude. I was sitting here just laughing. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? That was awesome.
That was
awesome.
Yeah, especially because they're the guy who's like half naked's the one taking pictures of you, and you're like, why are his
Oh, and he's in
clothes
his red like
Underwear.
or underwear or whatever. They're like leather underwear or something. Oh, it's fucking wrong, man.
yeah, the game just always catches you off guard, and it's like they understand humor so well because I had actually just played that I think 2 nights ago, and what happens is like they pan the camera over, they reveal this guy in his underwear, and because it's all text delivered. Sometimes like doing nothing is hilarious. So all that happens is you don't even see Kiryu like pop up with like dots or anything. Like his character just turns and like walks the other way. Like he's fucking out of there.
Yeah, perfect delivery of a non-line.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what fucking got me howling because I was like, oh my gosh, like he's just fucking done with these people's shit. He got tricked into this. Now you gotta like give poses. You gotta scream while you're fucking taking these pictures.
It's so wrong. And then like. I personally, I'm just going to go out there and say, from what I've seen from the Shenmue remakes and stuff like that, I really actually feel like the Yakuza series have just passed Shenmue by.
Absolutely.
I'm actually very nervous that Shenmue 3 is going to be an utter disappointment. I'm very nervous for that. But I'm playing Kiwami 2. First of all, it looks beautiful, dude. The game, at some points, like the neon and the fucking like...
I noticed that.
And I swear to God, it looks better than 6 and 0. And from what I remember when I was doing the review and looking at the tech specs, maybe it's not the first Unreal game, but there was something changed in this engine, and it's got a look to it that's fucking amazing.
I think it's 2 things. the textures on buildings are way better than Kiwami 1, which is the
Okay.
only one I
Okay.
played. And 2 was, I think there's a better use of color in Sotenburi.
In the world.
Yeah, because Kamurocho had like lots of little strips that seemed like really vibrant and bright, but then there were parts that just didn't look good. They lacked light, they lacked color, and it was just bland white buildings, which I never played the game for the graphics. I was more engrossed with like the hilarious writing and the sub stories and the main story, combat, leveling up, collecting money, mini games, what have you. Whereas Yakuza Kiwami 2, I've actually stopped to like, it's actually in my Activision video. It starts off and I'm just walking up this street,
Right.
and you just see people going back and forth. There's lots of, it feels like you're in a living, breathing part of the world. And I think part of it's also, this doesn't really attest to like why the world feels alive, but it looks great because of the lights. I think there's a lot of neon there, so you're
A lot of neon,
just
yeah.
eye candy everywhere, but it's not like overwhelming like you're in Times Square or something.
And the
like
puddles, like
Yeah.
sometimes there'll be a puddle somewhere and the
Yeah,
so
true, because
fucking
there's a
good.
part where there's like a river and there's like a bridge that you can go over, and you can see reflections of the lights hitting the river. Kiryu in general, his face, his facial animations, his suit, there's a sharpness to the game, I think, to a lot of the main characters, I should say, because sometimes you'll encounter like a sub story character and they don't look good, but that's,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm forgiving, but I almost overlook it. I don't think twice about it because I think this game does so much. It's not that it shouldn't be mentioned, but does it bother me? No, not at all.
So while you're playing it, have you noticed, I don't know any other way to describe this. Have you noticed the Grudge or the Ring kind of moments where you're in like a store, go into one of the little markets, and occasionally, I'm assuming this is a pathing error. You go to the back of the store, there'll be an exit door, like, but they can't go out, but you'll see people piled up at it. And the longer you play the game, the more people will be there. So this one time, I'd played the game for like fucking, I don't know, 25 hours. I come around the corner and there's like noodles. Another thing, the stores are fucking immaculate, dude.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't, oh my God, they look
Feels
real.
like you're
And
really
I come,
there. Yeah.
yeah, I come around the corner and there's like 9 people facing an exit door and not moving. They're just like, and it was haunting because I was not, and I spent hours going, am I missing a quest?
Right.
Like, this is the creepiest fucking thing ever. And then later I realized, oh, it's an exit door. Maybe at one point you could go through, because that's another thing Kiwami 2 does. Well, all the Yakuza have done, but I, for some reason, noticed it in this one. The ability to pass through buildings, where like they'll have a
Yeah.
door on one alley and a door on the next, so you don't have to run all the way and do your fucking minesweeper moment where you make a big U. So
Very good point there. Yeah, the world's more interconnected, and the stores are something that I'm glad you mentioned that because I hadn't thought of that. Like I study Japanese as a second language, and so in turn I learn a lot about their culture, and I look at a lot of pictures and I read up a lot, and it's very true. It's almost polarizing, right? Because you have such like goofy writing and surreal moments happening in game because they're just so out of this world, but then there's so much things that attach to the Japanese culture and feel like you're really visiting a part of Japan, and the stores are definitely a big part of it. Like there's little goodies and nooks and crannies and like all these various different colors and writing all over the products, and just everything pops to you constantly. Like that's something that is very strong in Japanese marketing, it seems. And I mean that's something in marketing in general. But the reason I highlight Japanese is actually my girlfriend is like a gag gift for Christmas. She gets me this huge bag of just like Japanese food, just like snacks and candies and stuff. And it's some of the designs on these things are just ridiculous. Like they're fun to look at. They stick out to you, and it's like someone took that bag and made a full store of them in like when you walk into a convenience store in Yakuza Kiwami 2. And that's when I was like, wow, they really nailed the world here. And made it feel like you're, like I said, in a part of Japan. It's wonderful. As someone who loves the culture so much and loves the language and wants to constantly learn more, it's like amazing being there because I'm almost living vicariously through it. It's
I
crazy.
also love just when you get in those fights and you start using the shit around you and you'll get surprised. I still remember in Yakuza 0 where you grab a dude by his ass and his back and you crotch him on a fucking street lamp. Like so you've got him like almost like a body press, and then you're all meh, and you just toss him crotch first into a fucking light post. And I remember just going, oh my God. So I spent hours. I don't think I got it to work in this one, but some of them, when you like grab a fucking, bicycle and you're just like bitches, and it's almost like Dead Rising, which is weird. So before anybody freaks out who's listening to this, but if you look at the way Dead Rising works with crowd dynamics for battle, there is a lot of similarities, even though Yakuza feels better, controls better. But like the goofiness of Dead Rising is inherent in all parts of Yakuza. Right. And I actually like that. I love the goofiness in Dead Rising, even if it's not the greatest game in the world. And I think Yakuza nails it in a way that Americans and the English non-Japanese speakers can still get. Mm-hmm. But there is a mystery occasionally where something happens and you're like, okay, wait, am I supposed to get that? Or is that the joke? And I sort of dig that, where I want to go, like, do I want to investigate this more? Because I'm actually interested in it. They do. Whoever translates it and how they translate it and how they knew it, I don't know why, but it feels like the Yakuza games a lot of times are created for English audiences.
Yeah,
that sounds.
I've read a lot of tweets from the localization team at Sega, I want to say, and they're like really proud of the team who does like the Yakuza games, because they should be. They feel like they really do them justice.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, that game, it's so much fun right now. I'm 5 hours in, and it's like, that's a short amount of time, but every time I'm in that game, like, I think I played a 2-hour session and a 3-hour session, and just both times it just like flew by. 45 of those minutes was spent like recapping the first game just to make sure I'm up to snuff on everything. One improvement that I really, really appreciate in this game is the combat, where as the battle starts, there is no like zoom in the camera on the enemies, play the same soundtrack again. It's like, okay, another fight. It feels they made an attempt to make it more seamless. So when the battle begins, there's a little bit of a blue fade. You see text come up on who you're fighting, delinquents, thugs, Yakuza, whatever. And then the combat just starts. There's not this extra camera work that feels like it's a orchestrated scene. It's just happening in the world. And it makes you appreciate what's around you more, I think, because that fight just happens, and then you see a bike rack or you see a sign, and you start realizing, like, wow, 2 seconds ago that was there and it made sense because it's a bike rack next to a popular shopping mall. People rode their bikes here, parked them here. And then now this bike rack makes sense because the game sets these areas up where combat can happen. Not like they're preset, combat can happen anywhere in the world. But the game sets this up where it also makes sense where once combat starts, that is now a tool for me to use and do cool shit with.
They feel less like arenas.
Yes.
Than the prior games. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Precisely. I love the animation changes they made, where you'll grab a bike, you'll press the triangle button to do a heat action, and you'll like slap him with it, and then you'll like literally dive bomb onto it and break the fucking bike underneath you on his body. The game really went for a more brutal approach, I feel, which it always had a crunchy nature to it. So I think that this was a good choice, because sometimes the heat actions would be like, oh, I'm gonna punch you like 3 times in the chest, and then one big punch, and it's you go, okay, that's cool, but you know, the harder hitting ones really are what get you out of your seat, going, wow. Because I remember one time in Kiwami 1, I remember picking up a guy and like fireman carrying him off of my shoulder and like hitting his spine entirely over like I'm trying to think of what the word would be. I think it actually might have been a bike rack. Something with bike racks, but you just totally break his back over it, and I was like, holy crap. And at this point, I was easily 30 hours in. And with Kiwami 2, I already had that multiple times where, like, you stick a knife into someone, knee the knife. The first heat action you unlock, someone's laying on the ground, you literally bring your fist in and just punch them in the face on the ground. And it's the way camera works there, too.
What did you think about the unlocks? Do you feel that, like, the skill... I'm going to be honest, talking about, like, skill lists and shit. I think that one's pretty fucking messy. I like them, but holy shit. If I remember right, that's the one that has, like, multiple tabs, and then you scroll down, and there's just a shit ton of skills, right? That are black, that are darked out when you can't, when you don't... I'm not I was not a fan of the spreadsheet
So,
look, to be honest.
as for allocating points for leveling up, because Kiwami 1, I believe that was through yen, right? You'd get money, you'd spend it on upgrades.
You get money, yeah.
And I think also there was something with perk points, because I remember there was a tree that kind of like would swirl almost. I think I like the allocation of points, how you get them, whether you're going to a restaurant and you're eating and you get special bonuses for eating certain items on the menu.
Right.
And when you, quote, complete a restaurant, you get a bonus for that. And you're constantly earning stats for just engaging in the world. I love that because it just keeps you playing. That's what the game is supposed to be. It's a fun game to play. How do we get the player to play? How do we get them to get involved in everything? Make everything rewarding. So, yes, sitting down to eat fills up your stomach. You get bonuses for it. You also get points that you can spend. You go out, you fight some more, you get points for that. Your stomach's empty, you go out, you eat, and you can just keep rinse and repeat that. I love that system. And it encourages you to go to different restaurants because once complete, which I learned by accident, I just ordered the whole menu, ate everything, got all my bonuses, and then I got a new stat completion for completing that restaurant. I was like, all right, next time I need to eat, I'm going to somewhere else. So it kept me paying attention to the world too. I was like, okay, I did this one, now this one. I think that's fantastic. As for, yes, the organization, it has 4 tabs, which all make sense. It's like, okay, these are life skills, heat actions, just
that's
generic
what it was.
stats. Like, okay,
Generic stats, yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, sure. That's good. It's once you get into that, because the generic stats are fine. Attack power of leveling that up.
Yeah, exactly.
Heat actions, though, once you get into that menu, it's all downhill. Holy fuck, that's a whole long list, and I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I don't remember. I could be going crazy, but I'm almost 100% sure that game did not have a preview button for seeing the move.
The move,
like in a video.
The move is there. Yes, unless they got patched in, could have gotten patched in because I'm playing this now in January.
Or I just don't remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know this game came out in August of 2018. But yeah, this does have previews. I try not to watch them, just because I love the feeling of unlocking it, seeing like, okay, this is now I can do a heat action for when someone's pointing a gun at me.
Right.
And then when I see that opportunity going, oh, I can go do that heat action because he's got a gun, and seeing what happens there in the moment, that's my choice. I don't know if that's the best way for the game to be played, but I love that feeling of discovering the move in the heat of combat and realizing, hey, he's got a spear. Now I know I can do that move on him. So I really love the changes to the combat, though, overall. Like you said, less of an arena feel. There's also been fine-tuning involved that makes boss fights legitimately tough in a way that doesn't feel like
that was going to be my next question, is about the boss fights, because I don't know, dude. Well, you haven't got far enough, but you're talking about the first boss fight against the whatever his name is in the fucking
Ryuji.
Yeah. You felt you were okay with that fight?
I really like that one because I remember in Kiwami 1, some of the boss fights, you'd hit them a couple of times, and they just have that cheap, like, knockdown punch that hits you no matter what you're doing, how you're dodging, how you're blocking, how much you're striking there. He hits you no matter what. I don't like that in boss fights. So far, I've done this one boss fight in Kiwami 2, and I really liked how it was about knowing his patterns. You know, he shows a big animation when he's going to grab you. He powers up at one point in the fight. He gets tougher. I really liked it, though, because it was, especially how they designed it, they didn't lay out too many weapons for you to kind of cheese the fight. It was more so hand-to-hand combat with this new rival of yours and how we're going to build off of that. So I loved that fight. Now, I don't
That's
know
one
if
in
it
the
gets worse.
circular.
Almost like a garden, kind of.
Yeah, so when you were doing that, this is funny you bring up bosses, because this was the question I was actually going to ask you. So I believe I died on him the first time. And if I remember right, I came back and I was pissed in the game. I was mad, or not in the game, myself I was mad, because if I remember right, I started off with less of something, like a healing thing, like less healing. Or
Really?
Yeah, and I remember going like, whoa, because he was already hard. I mean, he wasn't impossible. But I was like, I know I can kill him, but I'm going to die a couple times just learning his patterns and stuff. And I remember dying, and I actually walked away from the game like for 30 minutes because I died. I think the checkpoint's not even there, is it? Isn't the checkpoint?
Checkpoint is at that fight. So if you die there,
Checkpoint is at that.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I died
for some reason
times, and I got frustrated too.
Yeah.
But more so skill-wise, because I used a toughness item to heal my health, and then I lost, and I got worried because I think in Kiwami 1, they didn't let you keep your items after you used them and died. So I thought, oh, fuck. Like you said, I was like, God, this guy was hard already.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, and so in Kiwami 2, though, when I died, I got to reuse my items. Like, they were still there.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm not lying.
Oh, dude, I didn't get to. That's
Okay,
exactly
so-
what I'm talking about.
So this is something that could have been patched, I feel.
Man, or is there a difficulty in that one?
I was on normal.
There is a difficulty choice?
It gives you an option to knock it down if you die enough. Because I died 3 times. I remember on the 3rd try, they were like, you want to go on easy? I said, hell no. Like, what the fuck? There's no shot I want to do that. I have pride.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if I was on hard difficulty at that fight just for that fight. But that's exactly
Maybe.
what happened. So I died after using the thing, and that motherfucker transformed, and I wasn't expecting him to. Or not transform, he powered up.
And if he hits you, the only thing I didn't like about that is there's a quick time event, and if you fail it, because it happens out of nowhere, and if you fail it, he knocks out like a good quarter to half your life.
It's almost half of your life. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah,
well, I'm glad. None of them are harder than that. I mean, they're just. It is. Man, I wonder if it was just that fight. If I had that, maybe I had bumped because I always mess around with the skill level for testing for people. But I remember, and he did the whatever he does, the power up, and I should have expected it. Almost all the characters in those games do, and I just completely fucking failed to remember that would happen. And so I'm like, fucking take my health or whatever, and I'm like, da-da, and I hit him a couple times, and then like all shit breaks loose, and I'm like, oh no. And then of course his attacks changed, and you get the weird QTEs and stuff. So, well, that's cool, man. I'm glad you're liking it. What do you think of the gunplay though?
I haven't picked
Are you a fan?
I haven't tried any guns. Or actually, you know what? I picked up a pistol. No, you know what happened? Oh, fuck. I went into a hideout, and I found a chest. Or no, I found a package, and it said Yakuza series data found. Because it noticed I played Kiwami 1. I thought, oh, awesome. So it starts giving me all this free shit. Thinking, oh, great. And one of them said I got a rocket launcher. So I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. So I equip that motherfucker, and I get into a fight in the middle of the street. And there's a ton of people surrounding me, too. Easily, like, 8 people are about to square up, and you just see Kiryu take a knee and just shoot this rocket into this group of fucking people. And the fight just ends. That's it. That's all that happens.
Oh, really?
The music didn't even start. Music didn't even start. Just took a knee, boom, blew them all up. And what was hilarious is no one in the, like, street walking around reacted to me just shooting a missile.
Right, they just walk by. They're
Yeah,
like, it's normal.
There was like no aiming, so I just pressed triangle and it was all radius based.
I see.
So I have a pistol because of that unlock. It was what I was getting to. Haven't had a chance to shoot it though. I thought it was just like you press the triangle button and you kind of free fire and hope you're lined up with them. It's almost like Resident Evil.
Exactly. And I didn't hate it. It just wasn't, I think those games always have issues, right? Every game, including Dead Rising, all of these third-person games where you can get multiple opponents never really have that perfect combat. If they're made for that, Bloodborne or fucking, some Dark Souls, then I think it's easier. But when it's a game about walking around, your animations need to mesh between your combat and your walking normally so you don't look completely different. Sometimes they let you down, but yeah, it seems like you're finding the same things to like about it that I did. I didn't know you could complete a restaurant. I didn't eat as much, I'll be honest, as like was really required. But as somebody like yourself who's more of a fan of that location, I can see where that's actually a really good way to get you to like not only up your skill points and all that, but also just sort of like see the different foods. It reminds me of Final Fantasy. What was the last one? 14, 15,
yeah.
With the food with whatever his name is, feeding you. I like that. I didn't think about it that way, but that is true. That does cause you to sort of sink into it a little, which was, they had a lot in that. That game is dense for, it's not super long, but it's dense, which I like.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That's the thing. I think part of it's I know it's not super long. I think, it's probably 30, 40 hours?
Yeah, I remember us talking, and I remember you being surprised it was shorter than, because I believe, if I remember right, Zero's longer. I'll have to go back and look because I reviewed 0 as well, and I remember I think Kiwami 2 is shorter than 0, or at least I beat it in a shorter amount of time. If I remember right, I'd have to go back. It's been August, so I can't remember.
Kiwami 1 was about 30 hours for me. I think 25, 30 hours. So I felt Kiwami 2 would land there. So I feel with those games, in our situation, it's easier to get more, I guess, immersed in that versus, let's say I was playing a really big open world title right now, just one that escapes me. I'm talking about for leisure, by the way, where I feel like I can indulge in all that Yakuza Kiwami has to offer in this point in time because I'm not really playing anything else except Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And fully enjoy that. Where if I were to play a 70-hour open world RPG, that wouldn't go well because I wouldn't be able to stop and smell the roses. I'd definitely have to not force myself, but like, okay, I got to play the story now. I got to pick up the pace here, move a little bit throughout the game. One thing I do also appreciate to keep this discussion going a little bit is the sub-stories connect to each other more in this game. So
yeah,
I'll bump into a politician. He'll give me a self-help book because I beat up some guy harassing him. I'll find some guy who's really sad about his life. Give him the self-help book.
Give him the self-help book.
Yeah, and then you'll bump into that politician harassing his wife later, and then the guy who just read that politician's self-help book they're gonna fight each other. That type of stuff, the way that develops as you're doing little activities in between, whether you stop at the arcade, which, by the way, having Virtua Fighter 2 in there, that's fucking amazing. I thought that was
dude, I
so
even put it in my review.
Yeah.
It's in me playing that in there, and somebody even goes, "Why just Virtua Fighter 2 randomly in here?" And I'm like, "Dude, because it's in the game."
Yeah,
like it's awesome.
It's amazing that they actually did that. I've never seen that before, so that was cool. But doing all those little things and then encountering those stories along the way and how they connect, sometimes it can lose a little focus because you'll bump into someone and go, who's that again? And that's
right.
After playing through a short period of time too. So maybe that's my own memory, but I just, that was one thing I noticed that I liked and had an issue with, because so much stuff happens and there's so much to absorb in the world that perhaps this character I thought was just a passerby, thought that was going to be it from him or her, turns out to be something much more much more connected to other stories. And then like that guy who's like a loan shark and he's giving everyone out money, I remembered him. But then the guy who I gave a self-help book to, I forgot his name is Yoshida, and so this guy Yoshida walks up to the politician, and I'm like, who's Yoshida? Oh, now I get it, because he started talking about how he's got his confidence back. So little things like that.
Did you when you get to the hostess bar, they all merge, which I thought was really cool, because there's a game there, a full-on not mini game. It's definitely
like
it is
higher game within a game.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit above a mini game, I would say. It's like almost like a real-time management game. But then those characters, if I remember right, those characters, a couple of them have their own side stuff outside, of there. And so that's the thing a lot of these open world games have, or even for, let's say, a Red Dead, there's the videos where somebody follows an NPC in Red Dead. He wakes up, he fucking goes, he drinks, then he goes work at a lumberyard, then goes home, go to bed, whatever. But in Kiwami, having them outside the building that they're normally in and walking around and interacting with other people, I'm not saying it's better than Red Dead. I don't believe it is. I just think that they mattered a little bit more. Like, I would never have an interaction with a shop owner after the first time or anything that would be that important in Red Dead. But with Kiwami 2 in particular, you have a lot of various little interactions that sometimes, like you said, turn out to be something else. Like they turn into a bigger thing, which is why I think the social dynamic and sort of the neighborhood simulator reminds me of Vampire so much. There's something about all those games that sort of overlap for me that I like about them.
I think it's just because it's tight,
awesome game.
It's connected. It feels more meaningful if you're not in such a big world and you have little pockets of civilization you can get to know, like a Fallout 3. I remember at the time, like, I was fascinated by that, and I still am to this day, because for the time, I know people look at Fallout 3's world and maybe scoff a little bit, but for the time, that world was huge. And so having those pockets of civilization with characters to build and get to know, that's one thing. But now, as games get bigger, it's sometimes really, really, really nice. Just not even for the sake of like, I get to see it all, but it feels like everything's there. Everything's accessible. And that it reminds me of how I feel with a card game when you have an amazing hand, and it doesn't matter. I'm not even talking about Dragon Ball. Any card game, you have an amazing hand, and you can see the options in your head of like 4 different plays you can make. Same thing with a game like this, where you have all the options there, and you have 50 different things you can do. It's like, okay, how do I spend my fun now? And I think that's what gets us most giddy deep down. Of course, there's things like Vampire. Sure. Okay, it's an amazing RPG, amazing conversation system. But I think when you go deeper, I think it's something along those lines. So,
yeah, for sure.
Kiwami, agreed. Awesome. Very awesome series. If you haven't played Yakuza, ladies and gentlemen, give it a whirl. You will not regret it. It's really fun. And it's got a good story. And I will not be skipping Yakuza Kiwami 3 this year. I will not be waiting till Christmas for this one.
Yeah.
For sure. So, that'll be the H.A.M Radio Podcast, episode 186. We hope, or actually maybe 185. I have 84 written down for. That's strange. Well, I'm gonna have to go double check. I'm gonna have to go double check my work. Maybe I fucked up. We'll find out if this is episode 186 or 85. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yes, indeed.
And we will catch you all next week.
Peace out.